Good afternoon, this is Brent with Lykins Motorsports, and I thought I would take the opportunity to talk about some flat tappet cam shaft options that we can use for modern engines. There's basically three levels of flat tappet camshaft. Well, I keep saying options. I guess that's redundant, but I guess I should just jump right into what's available. The most basic form of the flat tappet camshaft is just a non-nitrided cast iron flat tappet cam, and that's what most of you would probably order off the shelf from comp cams, Lenati, Summit Racing, Melling, that sort of thing. These are the lowest price camshafts. They're just cast iron cores, machine lobes, and machine journals, and that's it. You would use those with a regular, typical flat tappet lifter, such as something like this. This is a factory Ford lifter. Used one, and you can tell it's just a cast iron lifter with machined faces on it. The next option would be a nitrided. Oh, let me back up and say you really want to watch spring pressures on these types of scenarios. You can run probably get away with seat pressures 120, maybe 130 on a good combination. You can extend that a little bit by using a lifter that has an EDM hole on the bottom. See, this one does not, but most of the time they have just a little tiny hole right in the center. It's about 12 thousandths of diameter, and in a pressure-fed lifter situation, that little hole will basically pee oil on your cam lobes, and that will help alleviate some of the wear from higher spring pressures so that your solid flat tappet lifters will have the EDM hole. Your hydraulic flat tappet lifters will sometimes have a flat groove, or not a groove, but just a flat side on the side of the lifter, so that it'll help pass oil down the side of it. Those type of oiling modifications to the lifters will extend the life of the camshaft and will help you run a little bit more spring pressure. This is a nitrided cam. You can see the difference between the appearance. It's just all black and has been nitrided. This increases the hardness of the lobes and gives you some extra wear protection. Again, you can use a typical lifter. You can use a lifter with the EDM hole or the flat face. You can also use what's called a tool steel lifter, which is something like this, and it's all machined. It is a steel lifter, and these come in different flavors as well, with the EDM hole or whatever. With the nitrided cam and the tool steel lifter, you can really increase the lobe regression. You can increase the seat pressure and the open pressure. And with these combinations, I have ran seat pressures of about 160 pounds and open pressures around 440 pounds. So you can really get into some healthy camshafts like that. The last option, and I don't have one here, but I have one coming for a future build, is a Billet Steel core flat tappet camshaft. And essentially that will look like some of the roller cam cores that we get in here, the Billet Steel, the all shiny camshaft cores, but with a solid flat tappet lifter profile on it. So the difference in the lobe shapes is the flat tappet lobes are a little bit more pointy, but that can be transferred over to a billet steel core. The lifters that you use with a billet steel core are DLC coated tool steel lifters. So it would be like this, except it would be DLC coated, which is a diamond-like carbon. So what that stands for, they are incredibly hard, incredibly tough. Think cup racing, Nextel Cup racing, that sort of thing. And they will take some extreme spring pressures, some extreme low regression, and they can be transferred from cam to cam. There's no break-in required, and just kind of makes things a little bit easier for installation and break-in. In that type of situation, you can really get into some aggressive lobes, almost approaching solid roller specifications in terms of advertised durations, 200 thousandths lift durations, and lift, and you know, some 750 lift flat tappet camshafts are not out of the ordinary on that. It's incredibly expensive. The camshaft cores themselves can be, you know, $800, $900, $1,000 depending, and the lifters can be about $1,600, $1,700 by the time you have them coated. So you just have to match up the cam core and the lifter for your application. Some class rules dictate it's a flat tappet cam, and you work with you know, you work with what you have to work with. So in other situations, such as some cylinder heads that you know, in order to run an extreme spring pressure, you really have to ramp up on the rocker arm style and the machine work needed to do that, such as, you know, your Ford FE stuff. And sometimes it's not feasible or not as easy to run some really higher end rockers. So you can run a flat tappet and run decreased spring pressures and help yourself out there. So we don't talk about flat tappet stuff here on the channel very much. I don't run too many of those. I've done a few in the past. I think the last one was a 427 high riser motor. I used a solid flat tappet, a nitrided core with some trend tool steel lifters, and that was a healthy combination. But a lot of my cams are roller cams. But in the instance of like a 427 center oiler or some of the other FE blocks that are not drilled for oiling to the lifters, you really only have two options: run a solid flat tappet or run a solid roller, and the options kind of are narrowed down there. But just want to take a few minutes to talk about that. Got some interesting things coming up pretty soon. A cam on the way and some lifters on the way that probably many of you have never seen before. So I just want, this is going to be a preemptive video for that. Hope you're having a good weekend. And if I don't hear from you today or tomorrow, then I hope you have a good weekend and the start of your next week.